start.
Huh? No, I'm saying your secret is safe with me. We'll start with failure. From failure, we'll go to Cobus Sim, and then we'll come back to the front row, and then finish off with the 5 questions from you.
Coach Jake, congratulations on the win. A bit of that pressure in the early parts of the game came from kicking over the back three. Was that off the playbook going into the game?
From our side?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, again, it's just the importance of having Willie there. And I just said, as long as Willie's on the field, I just feel, especially with all the leaders that have been out, it's got nothing to do with, we've just lost so many guys on the field that got a sense of how we want to play. And I probably erred last week. I took him off too early. I should have probably left him on. I didn't, I mean, he's been carrying a bit of a niggle, and I was too conservative. I should have maybe worried about what happened last week and finished the game. So it wasn't, I mean, I think Billy's good enough to understand when to run it, when to kick it. And that's what makes it so different for us, because when he's on the field, there's a little bit more guidance from him to the other players.
And you've had the number of the Lions for a couple of occasions now. What makes the difference? I mean, last week they beat the Stormers, and what makes the difference?
The message today is the same as I've told you guys the whole week. They're a good team, mate. They're a good team. They can score tries, and they can, when they start running at you, it's difficult to defend against them. And they don't go away. I mean, let's be fair. I mean, they had 2 or 3 tries there. If they scored them, which were disallowed, then all of a sudden it's a different pressure in the last 10, 15 minutes as well. So, I'm glad we can get on top of them, because they're a difficult team to beat. And they've got 2 really big games against the Sharks now, and they've done it at home by beating the Stormers. So I've got no doubt that they will. They're well coached, and they're fit. And that's one thing I'll give them. They're very fit. So I don't think they're as weak as what people give them, in the media.
Jake, are you happy with the way the guys reacted after the Lions came back 17-14 at halftime after that good start? Are you happy with the way?
Yeah, Cobus, I am, and obviously I am. I mean, to get a win there like that and to get a bonus point, just before half time, I thought, it was a disallowed try, as in held up. I thought it was a try, and that maybe would have just given us a little bit more of a cushion. We missed 2 conversions, so that's 4 points as well, and it's just the way it is. I mean, I know that's what one of the shortfalls of not having a recognised goal kicker in our team. And it's quite ironic, because for the first 12 minutes, probably the best we've played in a long, long time against anybody. And it looked at that point, after 12 minutes, 17 all up, that it was going to be one-sided. So to let them, score 2 tries and make it 17-14 at half time is obviously, I don't know if you remember what happened there, but they kicked a poor kick to Willie, and Willie passed to Emmy, and Emmy is probably one of the quickest players on the field, and I don't know, for some unknown reason, he ran one step and kicked the ball straight back down to the Lions players. I don't know if, I just don't want him to be scared, or anyone to be scared to back themselves in those situations. It was a poor kick. If Willie caught it, gave it to Emmy, I would have loved him to back himself there and see how far he could get up down the field, And then from that, we didn't only concede 7, we conceded a yellow card as well, which, put us under the pump for a while as well. So, those are the things that frustrate me, is because we almost got them by the neck and by the throat, and we about to put them out, and then we go and do something like that. So,
Jake, I wanted to ask you, the 3 tries in 11 minutes, and like you say, you think you're on your way.
Yeah.
Looking, you're just waiting for the bonus point to land, and then suddenly you're looking at 17-14.
Yeah.
What for you went wrong in that period?
We weren't brave enough. So we weren't brave enough, and we kicked. I'll just explain to you how it works. Is we got the ball, we had 50 meters between us and the next defender, and we kicked the ball straight back to them, and then we had to chase, and they kicked the ball straight back to us. There was no one on the backfield. The reason for that is because we kicked it too early. And then what happened is we then scrambled back. We play the guy without the ball. We get a yellow card when they tap and run it. and they go and score a try. I mean, that's just from absolute, just no control. That's basically what I mean. It's got no one's fault. It's just we're in control. I mean, even to use an example, we kick for touch, we don't find touch. The clock's against them. The one thing we can't afford is to kick and let them jump infield and keep the ball in, and then we do it again. So, you guys would always write about those are coach killers. But I'm also fully aware of the fact, and I've said it to you very many times, that no Marcel, no Elrich, no Ruan Nokia, those guys we've been grooming as captains for a long time. No Anu Botha, who's captained us before. No, and I'm using the names of the boys we've been together for a while. And we seem to get quiet when that happens. And that's the one thing I'm working hard on, is that those are the times you should talk the most. So, I don't want to give you a whole rundown of what happened there, but we just try and make it so difficult for ourselves. And what I'm really happy about today is after doing that at half time, I had a chat to them and we sort of tightened up everything again. So, and I put that down to Willie. And you guys put a lot of media time into, is he a 10, is he a... It's irrelevant what position he is the best at. For me and for our group, I need him close, and I need him to be controlling things, and he will make mistakes. I mean, because that's the kind of player he is. He's one of those kind of guys. I mean, we ran the ball and threw a forward pass, and almost gave them from what we had. We tried to get over half, and he gave a forward pass. But look at the pass he made for the try that we scored. So there are a lot of things that are, as I said, it's management, and I think we're missing, but we'll get better when Ruan Nokia comes back, and when Marcel comes back, and when we get other players that have been captains before all together on the field at the same time. I've got no doubt that the direction and the way we play will be different.
Jake, the decision to put Jan Hendrik, prop having put on the list as a hooker, what was the thinking there?
Well, I'll tell you interesting, because I wasn't sure how long Marco van Staden could last, and I knew that Grobis could go to 6, so I pulled the trigger early on Jan Hendrik going to prop, and then if Marco had said, listen, I'm cramping and I'm really tired, I would just move Grobis to 6 and put Aluta to prop and move Jan Hendrik to hooker. And so it was one of those ideas that I had, that I could always, and Jan Hendrik's played the last three weeks at loosehead prop, so the adaptation of going to loosehead prop for me was probably easier than it would have been to put him straight to hooker. And he did well. And when he came on at hooker, we won both lineouts, or 3 lineouts that he threw in. But it's a wonderful thing to have versatile players that can play. I mean, Marku has played hooker for South Africa as well. So we're sitting in a very good position that we could have games where Marku could be on the bench as a hooker, and not necessarily play him in that game, because he could end up going to the side of the scrum for a game as well. So it's interesting that you asked that, Sim, because that was my thinking, is that I just put him to where that front row scrummed, him and Wilco and Grobis have scrummed, put him on. And the one thing about the Lions, they've got a good scrum. They've got a very good scrum, and they probably don't get the credit for the way they scrum. I mean, we didn't dominate them as much as we've dominated other teams in the season. So I'm very happy for Jan Hendrik that he actually can come on as a loosehead scrum against Asanati, who's obviously got massive write-ups, and he's heavy to scrum against, and still we got a scrum penalty in the 22 when he came on. So, that obviously helps.
You talked about Marco, Jake. He started off slowly last week, but he came back second half. He was almost an old Marco. That's impressive.
Yeah. Anyway, it's interesting. I had a one-on-one with all the players this week about the negativity and the outside noise that they would get. And my message to him was, it's my job to get him back to being who he was. He's been carrying an injury for a hell of a long time. And by his own admission, hasn't been playing as well as he knows he can. And he's been away at Bok tours where he plays one game in 6 weeks, or he plays 30 minutes in a month. It's just the way it is. And he just needs game time. He needs to be on the field, and he needs to play. And I said to him, we're going to find a way in which we get you to be back to back and back, time on the field, because there's no doubt that as the game was getting longer and longer, he was getting better and better. So yeah, I mean, it is something that I chatted to him about, and he's a World Cup winner. I mean, he hasn't just popped out from nowhere. I mean, he knows how to play. He knows how to play against big teams. And today, I mean, I thought he was really good today. I mean, for a guy who's been out for as long as he has and had one half of a game last week, I mean, he looked like he was the real deal again.
Cayman had a bit of a couple of problems with tackling, a couple of tackles he missed. He seems a bit slow. Am I mistaken?
No. I mean, to play against Enko van Wyk is a bloody good player. I mean, let's be fair. I mean, he runs over people, and it's not whether it's Kane. He's done that against a lot of opposition. I mean, did it last week again. I think he was he man of the match last week? And if he wasn't, then obviously the guys who choose man of the match don't understand what they're looking at. I mean, I can't believe that Grobis wasn't man of the match today. But anyway, that's not me to decide that.
On your man of the match, sorry, your centre pairing looked very
good.
That 2 to 12 and
Yeah.
that you were looking for.
Correct. And it's interesting in there. Didn't we score a try last week, line breaks, and it's almost a little bit like what happened against us last week. We looked like we could do that to teams as well. Yeah, they scored a really long range try against us as well. But I mean, there were moments there that I thought, well, it's quite nice to have pace. That one try when Sebastian de Klerk scored from a chip over the top as well. I mean, that's just speed. So yeah, it did work. And I'm not for 1 minute saying that Stedman was poor. From me, I just thought that Grobis was outstanding. I mean, that tackle he made on Horn and the turnover he made right at the death of the game when you've scrummed, and I mean, that's unbelievable. And that's unbelievable for a guy who's played 79, 80 minutes by the time he made that turnover.
I think it was Kieran Horn last week for the Lions.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
What did you think of Keegan Johannes? He hasn't played in a while and he looked very comfortable when he came on.
He's a good rugby player to me. He's a very good rugby player. And I think, it's one of those things, because he's so versatile, it's going to be very important for us going forward as well. Scrum half wise, he was always at 10 at school anyway. That's the ironic thing. And then he sort of moved to 9. And I was thinking about it this week. I've coached a lot all over the world, and you get guys like Michalak play 9 and 10, and Morgan Parra play 9 and 10, and Elissard played 9 and 10 for France. It's very normal in France. Very normal that a 9 moves to 10. Look at Antoine Dupont. He goes from 9 to 10. And I think sometimes there's a reason for it, because there's an understanding about when you're a good 9 what 10s want, and when you're a good 10 there's a great understanding about what 9s need to give you. So I'm fully aware of the fact that he's got rugby in him. Doc Craven used to say he's a footballer, and that quote will always go wherever people talk about rugby, and he's a footballer. And I just wish he would kick the ball out directly when we get a penalty. So
could he potentially fill that 10 gap for you?
Yeah, he could. And the nice thing, he could go 6-2 bench like the other guys do, because he could play 9 and 10 in a week when you don't have to put a scrum half on the bench, because he could play both. And those are things that you've seen have worked in world rugby for many, many teams. If you've got a guy who can go 9-10, and you put him on the bench as a back, then you could probably go 6 forwards in certain games as well. So it is a massive bonus to have for us. And you're right, the thing that I really enjoyed, he hasn't played for a while. He came in at 10, but he's been training like that, and that's why he got the nod this week. He's been playing in the team that's been going against us, and they've been looking like they're sharper than the team I'm putting on the field. And if I look at today's game, I mean, the Lions can attack. The Lions have got an unbelievable attack. Their attack is from broken play and from turnover. The one thing they are probably as good as any team is that when they you turn over the ball, and their transition from going from defense to attack is outstanding. And I think that's what he did this week against us. It was almost like when we were defending against the other group, every time we lost a ball, it was showtime for him, and it probably helped us in our prep for this weekend.
Jake, you spoke about the mistakes that players made to let the Lions back
Yeah.
into the game after those 3 tries, and a lot has been said about the maturity of the Lions
Yeah,
to come back.
yeah.
But what about the maturity that the Bulls showed to widen the gap again and
Yeah.
to up the ante in the second half?
And Nick, I'm so glad you asked that, because last week you asked me about Reinhard Ludwig, not you guys, and wasn't he outstanding today? Young captain, made the right calls. At the end they took the opportunity to take 3 points. Could have gone to the corner. He knew that the clock would have another minute left. And the maturity will come every week. When I sit here and I look at the team, I go, we're going to get better and better and better. There's no doubt in my mind about it. And the Lions, I want to say to you guys that I don't know why the Lions get all the flack they do. They don't have people leaving their club, as in to Springbok. They've had that same group together. They've had the same coaching staff together. And that's one of the things that if you look at any successful team, you've got the right group and they're together and you don't lose too many players. The cohesion and the understanding of that group is so much better than a group that changes all the time. If you look at the Irish team, if you look at the Leinster team, I mean, they play, if you work out the minutes that they train together for Leinster and for Ireland, it's so far ahead of any other team. It's a little bit like the Brumbies in the old days, and I use them. Regan, Larkham, Mortlock, Joe Roff. I mean, they would play for Australia on the weekend and they'd go back and they'd play at their club. Now, you imagine how many hours Gregan passed to Larkham and how many times at training they would have looked at each other and known exactly what they were going to do. And I think the Lions sometimes sometimes don't get, I don't want to say the credit, but people don't get the understanding about how important that is having. That's why we dominated for such a long time, because we only had 2 Springboks. And it was easy because every training session, the same players were training against each other. So I'm answering it by saying, of course, we're going to get better, and we're not there yet. I don't want to sit here now and go, we all know everything is fine. We're not there yet, and we won't be there for a while until I get those players to spend hours and hours and hours training and playing with each other.
You did touch on Sebastian de Klerk and Stephen Kans.
Yeah.
Just the two of them coming back into the side, scoring a try, and a lot of great line breaks, and Kans getting man of the match.
No, that makes me very happy because, backline play-wise, we've always prided ourselves on our attack. I think did we score 5 tries today? We scored 5 tries. I don't know when last someone scored 5 tries against the Lions. So it's an incredible achievement for us to score 5 tries. And to be fair, we had one disallowed over the try line that they say they put the ball down. So who would have scored 6 tries against the Lions in the last while? And Sebastian de Klerk, he wasn't dropped. It's a case of making sure people are fresh. Last week he got picked into the Springbok training camp, and he probably was buzzing to get back on the field today because he wants to prove that he can play at that level. And last week I sat here and I told you guys that there's no substitute for speed, and you saw what happened. As soon as we got past them, then we could finish. And the other thing which we also mustn't underestimate, it's what I said to you earlier about combinations. Him and Devon have played many, many, many games for the Pumas and trained many, many, many times for the Pumas together. And it's not by chance that Devon was much better today as well, because he's got a winger that he would have spent hours and hours and hours. You know how they train at the Pumas. They go for 4, 5, 6 hours at a time. So you add that up per season, it's a hell of a lot of time they would have trained together.
Coach, you feel you needed a reaction after last week's performance? The opening minutes of this particular game was there. What did you say to the players during the week and also today in the changing room just before they went out?
I'll tell you what I said to them today. When you join a big club, whether you play football or you play any sport, the expectation is you've got to do well. When you play against a club that is and I've got to be careful because I don't want you to write what you think I'm going to write, but when you play against a club where the expectation is you should win, you've got to show up. That's the bottom line. And all I expected them from today was not to be out-muscled, not to be out-passioned, not to be out-emotioned, and show that the one thing other clubs want is your job. So that was my message to them. And as I said, it's no disrespect to any other team or club. That is a well-known fact in any sporting arena. When you join the Barcelonas or the Liverpools or the big clubs in football, or whether it's the Green Bay 49ers, the expectation of your public and of the people that support you is that you're the best. And the reaction I got today was obviously what I wanted. I wanted them to understand is that teams will come at you. That I can never change. but you also got to show why you have the job you have. And you saw today, there's a reason why these players are playing at the Bulls, and there's a reason why people would always want to try and take their jobs, because when we get it right, we're very difficult to beat.
I think just lastly from my side, when you came in, coach, and you've always said that you're trying to create your own Springboks. If I'm not mistaken, in the recent alignment squad, there might be more Bulls players than any other team there.
Yeah.
And there's also some new faces, some players like the Cobus faces, the JFs, Reynard Ludwigs in that mix. What does that say for the union? What does it say for the work that you've done with various players, whether they're younger or older groups that they've come in?
It says a lot, because it means we're doing something right. And I also have said to you, I need players to play in South Africa. And I also said, if you come back to South Africa, you should be rewarded. And I thank SA Rugby for that, because Cobus Wiese came back and he's in, and Wilco came back and he's in, and Akka van der Merwe came back and he's in, which means you didn't have to play overseas in order to be selected. You can be selected by playing for the Bulls. The other part of that is that Jeff van Heerden's a youngster and he's in, and Cameron Hannekom's a youngster and he's in, and Reynard Ludwig's a youngster and it's in, which just for me sends the right message out to players who want to come and play at the Bulls. It makes, I don't want to say it makes it easier, but it makes it for me a sell to the parents that if you come to the Bulls, there's no reason why you won't, if you're good enough, why you won't make it. And that is, again, I'm saying thank you to SA Rugby, because the more we pick these local players and the more we put them into the Springbok team, the better the franchises are going to be, and the better the franchises are, the better South African rugby will be.
You're almost at the end of the Derby block.
Yes.
Obviously, I think played 5 out of 6 and 1 of 3. At which time, it's obviously a very important.
We win 3 or 4. We beat the Lions twice. We beat the Stormers, and I'm asking. And then what did we? And we lost 3. You're right. Sorry. You're right. Sorry, Sam. No, we lost. We've won. We played 5 then. Sorry, Sam.
So the question was, with the end of such an important block for a South African team close, when do you start looking at where you are in the log?
Yeah. So I mean, you were here with me. I just want to again reiterate: 4 weeks of Derby games in any tournament is massive. I don't think Leinster would play Connacht, Ulster, Munster and Munster again in 4 weekends. It's not no one's fault. It's the way it is. The Lions are going to go through exactly the same thing now. They've had 2 weeks in a row. They've got the Sharks the next 2 weekends. They will too. I've got no doubt. They will too find out that the 4th week and the 3rd week are tough weeks. And that's just when I said to Cash when I saw him on the field there. Those are things that as coaches you've got to manage. You've got to look at where your team is. You've got to find a way in which you stay positive. You've got to find a way in which you rotate the squad without breaking combinations. But I'll answer the rest of the question for you, Sim. It's irrelevant where you end up in the pool stages, and I say this when you know you can't come first. Which, let's be fair, I mean it would be a disaster if Leinster don't finish first. So that means 2, 3, 4 are the positions you want to end up in. And teams that have finished 4th have won this competition. So, yeah, I mean, every coach will sit here and go, let's win every game, finish top, get a home semi, home final, whatever. But the nature of this competition, with all the dynamics of European Cup rugby, Six Nations rugby, rotation of players, injuries, it's something that you have to, it's fluid as a coach, and you've got to find a way on the run to manage things. Because I would never have told you 3 weeks ago that we'd be sitting with our 3 captains for 2 Derby games. It would have been, I would never have expected that. And so who knows, in the next month, a lot of things can change. But we want to finish up as high as we can, and that's the first prize. But the second prize is we want to have the last 3 games for the chance to actually win the competition. Because if we're good enough, we should be able to beat any of those teams that we've played and beaten in the last 3 seasons.
Cool. Thank you.
Happy. Thanks, guys. Yeah, he'll be back next week. He just got a hell of a cut on his shin, almost like a knife cut. It was from a stud of a boot, and he was fine. I mean, when I say he's fine, but if he stops, then he feels like the wound. And if that thing opens because it's got internal stitches, then it can lead to a long time. Thanks, guys.